Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark. And you got to see a nice little snippet of Elvis and I earlier on today, out for one of our walks. It's been quite hot, though this afternoon it's cooled down quite a bit, which is nice. We've had off and on thunderstorms and things and periods without electricity over the last few days, so it's been challenging, but I'm happy that it started to cool down a little bit, or at least perhaps it's just feeling less humid. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. I thought I would do a little summary today of what I've been reading over the past few days. Obviously it is linked mostly to the Reading Europe 2021 challenge that we've been doing, and currently I'm with the Team England, but then of course that's nothing special because at least almost half the group is with Team England at the moment, because it's one of the two teams that is in the final along with Italy. So after Germany got knocked out, I started following England, and I had to read some English books, which I talked about in my last summary. And I've still been doing that, but I've been also reading books by possible opposition to England, excluding Ukraine. I didn't have time. I ran out of time, and luckily for me, England did beat them, so I didn't have to read anything. But when they took on Denmark, I did read something just in case, and luckily it wasn't required, but I enjoyed reading it anyway. And the book I read for Denmark was a short one. It was a short story, really, that's it comes on its own. It's a novella or whatever you want to call it, and it was Babette's Feast by Isak Dinesen, and it otherwise known as Karen Blixen. So it's the same woman who wrote Out of Africa, if you're familiar with that. And it was good. It was charming. It was interesting. Story follows that of two sisters who are brought up in a strict Protestant environment in the 19th century. And during the Franco-Prussian War, this woman comes to stay with them. Actually comes to them as a refugee, and she cooks and cleans and works for them. And one day this French woman wins the state lottery in France, and she decides to spend the money on giving this big feast for her, for those who helped her and people in the community and things like that. And it's a really nice story, short and sweet, as they say. Another book I read for England that I finished is this one here, The Ascent of Rumdoodle by W.E. Bowman. And it is, I mentioned it before, but it is a kind of spoof or parody of The Ascent of Everest. And it is very funny. There were several times I was laughing out loud for this. Bill Bryson does the introduction, so if you like Bill Bryson, he says it's one of his favourite books, actually. Unfortunately, the book wasn't that well received when it was written. It became an instant hit, really, among the mountaineering and climbing communities, but not in the wider world. But I really enjoyed it. I would definitely like to check out the other one that he wrote. I believe it's to do with sea exploration. Some of the same characters are in that, and they are great characters, and it's very, very funny, and I recommend it. Whether you like mountaineering or not, it's well worth your time, and it's only a little book, so there you go. And it would cheer you up if you're feeling down, for sure. The next English one I read is this, again, short story or novella by E.M. Forster, The Machine Stops. And this was really, it stuck with me, this one, I have to say. It's quite dark, and I wouldn't have associated E.M. Forster with writing science fiction, and especially something so so dark, really, as that was. It follows the story of a woman whose just kind of living her life underground like the rest of humanity. Everybody's living in these kind of pods. They're all identical all across the world. Doesn't matter where you are. And the book is written in 1909, and yet he kind of predicts things that are surprising, really. So, for example, smart voice assistants, things like Siri and others, which I won't mention because I've got one and it might set it off. Sorry for the banging. Elvis keeps dropping something to me. Probably you can see him if I move it down. He wants to play. Hey Elvis. Hello. So yeah, this woman, she's living in her little pod, and she gets contacted via some kind of video conference by her son, although she hasn't any particular strong bond with her son, because all she would have done was birthed him, and the children are kind of taken away and raised separately. They have these kind of like birthing farms or whatever, and her son wants to see her, so she boards an airship to visit him, and takes 2 days. And of course she says it's pointless because everything's exactly the same. And he starts to talk about this machine, because the whole civilization is being run by this kind of smart machine assistant thing that you ask it for your bed. It pulls out your bed. It controls the lights. You have all these buttons to push, and the instruction manual for this machine that each person has becomes kind of like a holy Bible. What shocked me was that the in this society, strong babies are euthanized. Because there's no kind of open fields and outdoor areas for people to go. It's pointless having a child that's going to grow up to be muscular or sporty. So these are euthanized. So it's pretty grim. And then this machine, as I say, is running everything, running everybody's lives. And then one day, of course, it ceases to work. And that's kind of what the story is about, really. I'd recommend it. It is dark, but it's very interesting, and I think I would actually read it again, because I probably missed some stuff from that. So anyway, that was another one for England, and luckily, as an Englishman, England beat Denmark, however controversial that might be. But these things happen in football. Of course, I'd probably be saying the other thing if I was Danish. And so today's the final of the Euro 2020, or the Reading Europe 2021 challenge, as England take on Italy. So just to be safe, I have read an Italian book, and it's this one here, The Little World of Don Camillo, by Giovanni Gurasecchi. And it again also was very, very charming. I really enjoyed it. It's very funny in parts, a little bit poignant in parts as well, but it's definitely worth a read if you haven't read it. It's a collection of short stories that loosely follow on each other. A couple of things do continue over the stories, and it follows a local parish priest in Italy after the Second World War, and his long-running conflict with the mayor, who happens to also be leader of the local Communist Party. And they get involved in fistfights with each other. They're always trying to outdo each other, but in the end, there's kind of a grudging and mutual respect. So it's fun, it's charming, and it's well worth picking up. And the last thing I read, also for England, because I'm desperately hoping for an English victory today, is this one here. Told After Supper by Jerome K. Jerome, who you might know from Three Men in a Boat fame, which book we will be reading, hopefully in celebration of an English victory today, but I'm pretty sure we're going to read it anyway as a group pretty soon. So if you want to join in that group read, leave a message below and you'll be more than welcome to. Anyway, this one, Told After Supper, is one of his earlier works, and it's again a short story or novella. I guess it's actually a collection of really short stories that is kind of a spoof or parody of the Victorian ghost novels, Victorian ghost stories that took place before and during the time that he is writing. And as you'd expect from the author of Three Men in a Boat, it is extremely funny. Like, really funny. I was reading it last night, and I was laughing. Elvis was looking at me like I was mad, but there's some really good lines in it. But some things, like traditions, I wasn't aware of. He was saying it's such a big tradition around Christmas Eve, when the family's all together, that everybody starts talking about ghosts and telling ghost stories. Now, that's interesting. I didn't know that. We think of Halloween and whatever, but not Christmas time. Though he does make a funny remark. He's saying, why on earth would you want to dig up all your old dead relatives as ghosts when, at a time when you're surrounded and have to put up with the live ones at Christmas time. So he's quite amusing there. And that's it for what I've read. I am still reading, because it is, of course, Jane Austen July. I'm still reading Northanger Abbey and still continue to be impressed with it and with Jane Austen. So I'm looking forward to getting on with that so I can move on to perhaps another one of hers. I've got Emma waiting, and hopefully if I've still got time to give that a go this month, though of course it doesn't matter if I read it in another month. So there we go. That's a little summary of what I've been reading in the last few days. Thank you very much for watching, and if you're an Italian supporter, I wish you good luck. If you're an England supporter, yeah. All right, everybody, take care. See you soon. Bye bye.